Hey guys, welcome back to Snack Time. Today's video, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be showing you how to bypass Intra's Azure compliant conditional access policy. And that's the conditional access policy that says you have to be a registered device in order to do anything within inside of M365. It's very commonly used to prevent like token theft, or at least not so much maybe prevent it, but stop them from gaining any sort of meaningful information about the environment. But this new exploit that has come out will allow you to get around that and gather a whole bunch of information about the M365 environment. I'm going to show you that tonight. We're going to be using two different tools. We're going to be using TokenSmith and we're going to be using ROADtools. I'm going to show you both of them. Let's go ahead and jump in and get started. All right, so for this, I'm going to make myself just a little bit small because we're going to need as much room as possible so that I can show you what I'm going to be doing here. The first thing I'm going to do is I want to show you the conditional access policy that I have set up, so you'll know which one I am referring to. Now we go under policies. This is going to be the require Azure join devices. I'm going to do my best to make this as big as possible. All right, so we are going to be applying this to all cloud apps. This is pretty common practice. And the access control grant condition is going to be over here. We are going to require the device to be marked as compliant. So this can be a very powerful conditional access policy. And you can see at the very bottom, I do have it turned on. All right. With that being said, let's jump into the article that I was reading, and that was put up by JumpSec Labs and describes the entire process of which this was developed. But what we are really concerned about, and there's a lot of good information here, definitely encourage you to read it. I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom because they have done us a solid and given us a proof of concept. And this is called TokenSmith. There is a very easy GitHub that you can go and pull this down. And let's find that real quick. There we go. And I'll put the link in the description too. Here we go. We got TokenSmith. And in order for you to use this, you will have to compile it. And what that means is that you will have to be running Go and use that to compile this into an executable. I've already done that step, and I'm not going to really cover that, as it's very straightforward if you just follow these instructions. I popped open a Ubuntu desktop virtual machine and just downloaded Go and then ran these commands. And installing Go is really easy. It's really just a matter of downloading the files, and just there's tons. I'll put a link in the description of how I installed it and the instructions that helped me. So that should get you up and going, but we're going to kind of skip over that step as far as doing the compiling. He did say that there were going to be some pre-built ones under the releases, but so there's nothing in the releases quite yet. So you will have to compile this yourself. All right, so I'm going to drag my TokenSmith executable over to my screen. And this will be one of the few files that I'll need. Okay, so we have our TokenSmith executable here. It's all compiled and I can run it, and it will basically describe exactly what I need to do in order to get this going. And let's see, I'm going to see if I can increase the font size just a little bit for you, and I can. There we go. I have increased it beyond normal. All right, so here's my TokenSmith command. And what we're going to do is make reference to that GitHub. So if we keep scrolling down, what we need to be able to do is to bypass the Intune requirement. And I want to show you what happens when we sign in to Office on a device that is not Intune compliant. Let's go to office.com. And we're going to be signing in with Adele. What I want you to be thinking about here is that we could definitely combine this with Evilginx so that when they signed in and went through all this, we could capture this whole token that they're using to authenticate with. So just something to keep in mind, because the steps that we're going to be doing are kind of a little bit on the machine itself. So once we have signed in, you see what happens is you can't get there from here. We're not a compliant device. We don't have any sort of access. I am signed in successfully, and if I try to go like portal.azure.com, I'm probably not gonna be able to get there either. It's making me MFA all over the place. Yeah, I can't get there from there. So I can't get any good information about this environment, but that is okay because this is where TokenSmith comes in. So we're going to be TokenSmith. Right, so we're going to type this in. We want to TokenSmith auth code and bypass. We are going to type in TokenSmith auth code Intune bypass. And what we need to do is we need to copy this URL right here that it's giving us. And we need to go to our user that has signed in or is attempting to sign in. And again, more MFA, which, I mean, that's not a bad thing. You're supposed to be doing MFA. It says, are you trying to sign into the portal? Yeah, I am. So once you get to this page right here, it's going to ask you, are you trying to get to the Intune portal? And we can hit continue and it's not going to really do anything for us. But if we hit Control-Shift-J, that will bring up our console. The URL that we're going to need is right here. It's saying it's not allowed to launch. But what we're going to do is we're going to right click on this and we're going to hit copy link address. And then we're going to take that, we're going to give that to our TokenSmith. So I pasted it in here and hit enter. It's going to give me my access tokens, my refresh tokens, and the scope of what I have permission to do. And you'll notice that there's a couple of really good scopes that I have access to, including email and the graph API to be able to do device reading, as a device read all, also device configuration. I got read and write for that. So it's quite possible I can add my own device in here and be compliant, which is kind of our goal. I'm not going to really cover that part, but I want to show you what we could take and use this, these refresh tokens and access tokens for, is to enumerate the entire Entra environment and get some pretty scary information. And we're going to do that with a program called ROADtools. All right, and so I wanted to show you how to install that real quick. Now that we do have our tokens, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to make my life a little bit easier because we are going to set these as variables. So I'm going to copy all this information. What I want to do is I want to make them variables. So I'm going to make this access token, and then I'm going to put it in quotation. I'm going to copy this. Honestly, let's just do this. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to come here. Boom. There we go. And here we go. Also going to do the same thing with my refresh token. Refresh. Was it token or ID? Yeah. Refresh. Refreshing. Can't type tonight. ID. Don't forget your $sign equals quotation back and boom. Cool. So I'm going to run those in just a little bit. I'll show you why I'm doing this in just a second. All right. So for my road recon, which is going to give me just oodles of information about this Entra environment, I want to show you the easiest way to install this. You could download the GitHub, you could compile it, you could do all this other stuff. But what I'm going to do is, I don't think I have Python here. I don't, but it wants to install it for me. I'm going to use wingit. Let me see if I can make this bigger. and install Python. I like this because I don't have to use any of the GUI. So this will give me a nice fresh installation of Python, and I'm going to use that with my road recon. All right, once that's done downloading, we can check to make sure that everything is working by just doing a Python V. Good, we're there. And Control Z. There we go. And we're going to do Python -m venv new env. And I'll put a link to the article that I'm referencing over on this screen that walks you through the entire process, but there's only a couple of lines. And then we're going to cd into that folder. And now we want to pip install road recon. Pip's going to take care of loading all of the stuff that we need and getting us set up. We may need to put this in the path too to see how that goes. Probably are. Let's try just running road recon. I didn't think so. All right, so we're going to need to add this folder right here into our path so that it can access it and we don't have to be in that folder. The easiest way to do that is just go up here to settings and we'll just do a search for path and we'll edit our environment variables. And you'll see our path is defined right there already. So let's double click on that. Let's add new. We'll paste in that that path, that folder, path. We'll paste that in right there and hit OK, and OK, and OK, and OK. Don't think it's going to work right away. No, let's do this. Let's exit out of our terminal and let's fire it back up again. That should be enough to let us run our program. Yep. Okay, so now that we have our program starting to load here, it's just telling us we haven't done anything. You haven't given us anything. That's fine. What I'm going to do next is go back to my GitHub. And what we need to do is scroll down because it's going to tell you, hey, this is, you're at this step right here. Now that we have our tokens, so we're not going to refresh them. Something to keep in mind, they do expire typically in about an hour. But what we're going to do is not going to take very long, especially since we have a smaller environment. There's two programs that you can use this with. You can do Graph Runner, which is pretty good, and Road Recon, which I think is pretty awesome. And the command that you're going to be using is this one right here, because you have done the Intune bypass. We're going to be running Road Recon auth refresh token, and then we're going to paste in that long string, and then we're going to do a -c, and that's for, and then this ID, which is referencing the application ID in Microsoft. So that's why I copied it here so that we don't have to paste that. And the only thing we need is our refresh ID. So I'm going to copy this right here and I'm going to paste it right there. And that sets that variable, the refresh ID variable, as that long string. So we don't have to paste the entire thing in our command. We can just paste that $sign and then the variable, and it will relay all this information for us. All right, so let's do that. Let's go ahead and minimize that. I'm just going to copy this command and do a little bit of editing. All right, so for this, all right, so instead of that, I'm going to replace this ... stuff. I'm going to replace it with $sign refresh ID. And that should be all I really need. And if I typed in everything right, let's run this. All right, tokens were written. Awesome. All right, and so now that we have our token written to the ROADtools auth, we can go ahead and proceed to do our recon. I'm going to do a road recon, and we're going to type in gather. And this will let it go through our entire environment and gather as much information as it possibly can about our current tenant. And once it's done that, this is the fun part. I'm going to look at it through the GUI. You can look at it generates a database file, which I should be able to show you here. Yep, this recon DB that you can load. I believe it's SQLite or something like that. But I want to use, they have a GUI that you can fire up, and it generates a website and shows you all the information in a really pretty format. I want to do road recon space GUI. That should bring up my GUI. Cool. All right, so it's telling us that in order to gain access, we just need to go to this URL. So I'm going to copy the URL, and I'm going to open up, let's open up Firefox again. I'm going to paste that URL at the top. All right, so now that we have access, check it out. We have the tenant ID, we have the name, we have a little bit of information about authorization policy. I can also pull in a list of all the different users that are in here, and I can drill into them, get information about them, as well as like groups. I got objects owned, so I can see their device data here. I have the raw format, but this is a lot of information. Let's see if I can find myself. There's a Dell. There's all the groups I'm a member of. I bet I can drill into the groups too. Yep, sure can. Objects owned. There's my computer there. Look at that. I have the object ID, the device ID. I have a lot. And so I can also look at all the devices under the environment. I can see who the admins are, I believe. Yeah, global administrators. Any applications that are loaded. Let's see, as well as permissions. This is a lot of friggin' data about an environment that just a couple of seconds ago was telling me I couldn't do anything at all. Service principals, application roles, OAuth permission. So there's a lot. So that's why this sort of thing really should be, monitored closely, is because there is a ton of information here, even stuff that I can't really show you, but that is pretty significant, especially if the wrong people got a hold of this information. They could really enumerate the entire company and start attacking individual accounts. I believe with the permissions that we have as well, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we could also register a device with this sort of information and basically become a known device to this. I'm not going to really dive too much on that. I will totally leave that up to the more advanced security experts to really dive into Road. This is actually my first day playing with it, and it's pretty impressive. But yeah, there's, like I said, you can, once you have this access token, there's a lot that you can do with it. If you get a chance to also check out Graph Runner. I will say that I think Road Recon gave me a lot better information and in a lot prettier format. All right, so one thing I want to show you before I jump out of this video is another really cool thing that's not inside of the web page or the GUI, I don't think. Check this out. If I do Road Recon plugin policies, check this out. So it's going to scan intra, and it's going to pop in. You're never going to guess this. Every single conditional access policy I have in my tenant, it's going to pull that. And like, can you imagine what you can do with this set of information? Like, you'd be able to know exactly what, the the person is protecting, and then plot your way around how you're going to get around it. So just thought I would show you that one as well. Definitely something good, some good information there. All right, guys. Well, that pretty much wraps up this video. I hope that you found it informative. There are some other things in that article as far as things that you can do to kind of mitigate some of this risk. Honestly, keeping an eye on your logs and seeing if there's somebody accessing the Intune Company Portal when maybe you don't even run Intune, or maybe you want to make sure that you set up an alert or something that says if they're accessing it, it's not from these specific IP addresses, then you're to alert you and to find out what's going on. If you guys have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Otherwise, I really appreciate you watching. You guys take it easy.